When people think of change, they often imagine it arriving with noise, power, and recognition. They picture leaders with titles, celebrities on platforms, or moments that go viral across the world. But real change rarely starts that way. It doesn't begin in the spotlight. It begins quietly in homes, in classrooms, on street corners, and in small moments where ordinary people decide that staying silent or still is no longer an option. History has never been shaped by perfection. It's been shaped by purpose, and often, the most powerful changes come from the most unexpected places, from someone who decided to ask a difficult question, from a young student who stood up for a friend, from a parent who worked 2 jobs and still made time to teach values, from a neighbor who saw a problem and chose to act instead of looking away. The truth is this: you don't need permission to make a difference. You don't need to be rich or famous or born into privilege. You need conviction. You need clarity. You need the courage to start, even if your voice shakes. That's how extraordinary things happen when everyday people choose to rise, speak, and act with purpose. Change doesn't begin with a crowd. It begins with a person, just one. That person could be you. You don't have to wait for the right moment. The right moment is now. You don't have to have all the answers. You just need the willingness to try, to listen, to learn, to take one step forward, even when the road ahead feels uncertain. Some of the most world-changing ideas began with small actions: a letter written, a question asked, a walk taken, a book read. Those moments don't seem like much at the time, but they start something. They start a chain of events that can lead to impact far greater than one person alone could ever predict. That's the beauty of action. It multiplies. It spreads, and when rooted in truth and hope, it inspires others to do the same. What separates those who make change from those who only wish for it is not ability, it is choice. The choice to step out of comfort. The choice to care enough to try. The choice to believe that your effort matters, even if you never see the final result. Because real change, makers understand this. The work they do may not always be seen, but it is never wasted. Ordinary people, teachers, nurses, workers, students, volunteers have always been at the center of transformation. They build the communities, they raise the future, they heal the broken, they challenge the unjust. They vote, they speak, they show up, and over time their combined actions create waves of change that shape history. You don't have to change the whole world today, but you can change one life. You can change your circle. You can change your perspective, and when enough people do that, the world changes. This is how movements begin, not with grand speeches or perfect plans, but with quiet, determined effort. One person, one decision, one moment of courage. When you look back at the people who have shaped the course of our history, who have stood up for civil rights, for justice, for peace, for education, you'll often find they started their journey not as heroes, but as ordinary individuals. Many of them doubted themselves, many faced fear, but they chose to act anyway, and that made all the difference. This is the reminder we all need today. You don't have to be extraordinary to begin, but by beginning with heart, with purpose, and with consistency, you can become someone who creates extraordinary results. Your background does not define your impact. Your circumstances do not limit your strength. What matters most is what you do with what you have where you are right now. This isn't just motivation, it's reality. Around the world, change is being built by hands that are tired but determined, by voices that may not speak perfect English, but speak with passion, by individuals who may not be seen by millions, but whose choices ripple across time. That can be your story too. So don't underestimate the power of your voice. Don't dismiss the value of your effort. You matter, your decisions matter, your dreams matter not just for you, but for the people your life will touch. You might not see it now, but your courage could be the spark that helps someone else believe in themselves. That's how change works, that's how it spreads. You are not too small to make a difference, you are not too late. The world needs people exactly like you, people who care, who work, who grow, and who dare to believe that their life can count for something greater. That belief is where it all begins. That belief is what turns ordinary people into extraordinary leaders, because in the end, change doesn't wait for the perfect leader. It waits for the brave one, and brave doesn't mean fearless, it means showing up anyway. With all your flaws, with all your doubts, with all your heart. That's the kind of bravery that changes everything. Education is not just about textbooks, exams, or sitting in a classroom. It is the most powerful tool for transformation, not just for individuals, but for entire communities and generations. When we say that education is the true equalizer, we are talking about its unique ability to lift people out of poverty, to break the cycle of injustice, and to open doors that once seemed permanently closed. No matter where you come from, whether your family has wealth or not, whether you were raised in a city or a village, whether you speak one language or many, education gives you the chance to rewrite your story. It gives you the chance to sit at the same table, to have a voice, and to be heard. That's what makes it so powerful. In a world that is often unfair, education levels the playing field. But education is not just something we get, it is something we earn. It takes commitment, it takes time, it requires us to be curious, to stay open, and to keep going even when it's hard. Learning is not a straight road. It's full of mistakes, questions, and struggles. But every step forward is a victory. Every new word you learn, every new skill you practice, every book you finish, these are steps toward empowerment. And the beauty of education is that it never ends. It doesn't stop when school stops. You can be 15 or 50 and still grow. You can live in any country and still access knowledge. Thanks to technology, knowledge is more accessible than ever, but it's still your responsibility to reach for it. No one can force you to learn. You have to want it. You have to see it as the key to your own freedom, because that's what education really is, freedom. It frees your mind from ignorance. It frees your future from limitation. It gives you choices. It gives you independence. When you can think critically, when you can communicate clearly, when you can read, write, and speak with confidence, no one can take that away from you. In every society, the people who bring change, who create new ideas, who lead with compassion and skill, they are usually the people who never stopped learning. Not because they were told to, but because they believed in the power of knowledge. They understood that education doesn't just make you smarter, it makes you stronger. It gives you the tools to stand up, to ask why, to imagine better, and to build it. And education isn't just about personal success. It's about collective success. When one person is educated, a family can change. When a community learns, it grows. When a nation invests in education, it builds its future. That's why the most forward-thinking societies always prioritize learning not just for children, but for everyone. Think of the people who have inspired you: teachers, speakers, writers, leaders. What do they have in common? Most likely, it's not just what they know, but how they learned. They stayed humble. They kept asking questions. They saw challenges as opportunities to grow. That mindset, the learning mindset, is more important than any diploma, because it means you will always keep rising, no matter what comes your way. For those learning English, this message is especially important. You might feel like you're behind. You might struggle with grammar, pronunciation, or understanding fast speakers, but every moment you spend learning is a powerful act of growth. You are giving yourself access to more voices, more ideas, more opportunities. And that is something to be proud of. Education is not about being the best. It's about becoming your best. It's about discovering who you are and what you can do. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's exhausting. But it's always worth it, because every new thing you learn becomes a part of you. It becomes your strength. That's why no investment is more valuable than the one you make in your own mind. When you read instead of scrolling. When you listen to ideas that challenge you, when you practice a new skill, when you ask for help, these small acts add up. They build something inside you that no one can see but everyone will feel. So if you've ever doubted your potential, remember this. Education is your way forward. It doesn't care where you started. It only cares where you're willing to go. And the more you learn, the further you'll go, not just in your job, but in your confidence, your decisions, your relationships, your life. Because when you are educated, truly educated, you don't just become more successful. You become more powerful, more thoughtful, more human, and the world needs more of that. Hope is often misunderstood. Some see it as a soft word, something passive or wishful, as if simply hoping for the best will magically solve problems. But real hope is not blind. It is not sitting still and waiting for someone else to change the world. Real hope is active, it is powerful, and it requires courage, the kind of courage that shows up when everything around you tells you to give up. Hope is the voice that says, try again. After you've failed 5 times in a row, it is the quiet strength that carries you through long nights of doubt and rejection. It's not naive, it's necessary. Because without hope, people stop moving, they stop believing, and when belief dies, progress dies with it. What gives hope its power is the fact that it lives in the heart of difficulty. It exists even when things seem broken, even when the path ahead is unclear. It lives in people who wake up and do the hard work anyway, not because the odds are in their favor, but because their values are. That's what separates hope from fantasy. Hope doesn't ignore reality. It pushes through it. There are moments in life when you feel like the world is too big, too fast, too unfair. You feel like your voice is too small, your dream is too far, your problem is too heavy. In those moments, it's tempting to shrink, to accept the way things are, to tell yourself that nothing you do will matter. That's when hope is most needed and hardest to hold on to. But those who make change, those who build something meaningful, are not the ones who had no fear. They are the ones who hoped boldly in the face of fear. They acted anyway, they kept going, they didn't always feel strong, but they chose not to stop. Hope in action is the student who keeps studying even when money is tight. It's the activist who stands alone in the rain holding a sign for justice. It's the immigrant who learns a new language word by word, day by day. It's the single parent who works 2 jobs but still makes time to read to their child at night. None of these actions are easy, but they are hopeful, they are powerful. Hope doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means feeling pain and still believing there's a better way. It means acknowledging how bad things might be but refusing to accept that they have to stay that way. Hope is realistic. It is grounded in effort. It grows when people take responsibility, even for things they didn't cause, because they care about making things better. It takes courage to hope in a world that tells you to be cynical. To believe in kindness when cruelty is louder, to believe in progress when the problems feel endless. But every great story of progress, every meaningful breakthrough, started with someone who hoped and then acted. Someone who looked at a difficult situation and said, "This can change and I can be part of it." Hope doesn't always come with a smile. Sometimes it comes with tears, with frustration, with a tired voice saying, "I'll try again tomorrow," and that's enough. That is more than enough, because that kind of hope is real. That kind of hope is brave. That kind of hope builds nations, moves communities, and changes lives. You don't need to have all the answers to have hope. You just need to believe that your next step matters and take it. That's what action looks like. One step, then another, not perfect, not fast, but forward, and when you do that, you inspire others to do the same. Hope spreads through example. It doesn't shout, it shines. It shines through teachers who stay after school, through doctors who work late into the night, through friends who check in when they don't have to, through leaders who listen even when it's uncomfortable. These are not acts of luck or magic. These are acts of choice. These are acts of hope. Even in your own life, you've already proven hope in action. Think back to a time when you didn't think you could make it, but you did. A time when you wanted to quit, but you didn't. You're here today, listening, learning, growing. That itself is an act of hope. It's a declaration that you believe your life matters, that you believe you can still rise, no matter where you started. So hold on to hope, not as a dream, but as a discipline. Make it your daily choice. Speak it into your words, show it in your work. And when others are lost in doubt, let them see your example and remember that it's still possible to believe, because hope, when put into action, becomes strength. It becomes change, and it becomes the foundation of a future we all deserve. When a nation rises, it does not rise because everyone thinks the same, looks the same, prays the same, or lives the same way. It rises because, despite all differences, its people choose to move forward together. Unity is not about being identical. It is about honoring diversity while choosing to stand on common ground. It is about recognizing that what connects us is deeper than what divides us. Division is easy. It feeds off fear and anger. It invites us to turn our backs on people who don't look like us, sound like us, or believe what we believe. It asks us to retreat into smaller and smaller groups, convinced that our side is always right. But history has shown time and again that division weakens us. It tears communities apart. It leads to silence where there should be conversation, suspicion where there should be trust, and violence where there should be peace. Unity, on the other hand, is harder. It requires listening when we'd rather speak. It means choosing to understand instead of assuming. It asks us to be bigger than our egos and more generous with our hearts. But unity is always worth the effort, because it brings strength that division can never offer. A unified people can solve complex problems. They can build resilient societies. They can rise after tragedy. They can write a better future. That's what makes unity so powerful. It's not just a feeling, it's a decision. It's a commitment to respect the dignity of every person, even when we disagree. It's a belief that no matter where you were born, how you worship, what language you speak, or what job you do, you deserve the same opportunity, the same justice, the same respect. And when we build systems around that idea, we build nations that last. Think about the strongest teams, families, or movements. What do they have in common? Not sameness, but shared purpose. They don't always agree on everything, but they agree on the direction they're moving. They support each other. They fill in the gaps. They show up. And that's how nations should work, too. When people come together, they build things that last longer than any one lifetime. They write laws that protect everyone. They create schools that teach truth and possibility. They open doors for those who have been left out. They hold each other accountable and raise each other up. That's not idealism, that's what happens when unity leads the way. But unity is fragile. It must be guarded and practiced. It must be taught to the next generation, not just through words, but through action. Children watch what we do more than what we say. If they see adults modeling division, hatred, and selfishness, they will learn the same. But if they see compassion, fairness, and collaboration, they will carry that forward. In this global era, where technology connects us instantly and challenges cross borders, unity is not optional. It is essential. Climate change, economic inequality, public health, and global peace, none of these can be solved by one group alone. They require shared effort, shared sacrifice, and shared hope. Unity does not mean ignoring problems. In fact, it means facing them together. It means having the courage to talk about injustice, to challenge inequality, to admit where we've gone wrong and to fix it as one people. Denial divides. Truth, when handled with humility, unites. We have to be willing to meet people where they are, not where we wish they were. That's how unity grows, through bridges, not walls, through empathy, not arrogance, through shared stories, not silence. It begins when we say, I may not have lived your experience, but I'm willing to listen and stand beside you. This kind of unity isn't built in a single day. It's built every day through policy and poetry, through service and leadership, through love and responsibility. It's built when neighbors check on each other, when communities welcome newcomers, when institutions reflect the people they serve. It's built when we stop asking, what do I get, and start asking, what can we build together? When unity guides a nation, it becomes a light to others. It becomes a home for those who have been displaced, a voice for those who have been silenced, a shelter for those who have been denied. It becomes a place where dreams are possible not just for a few, but for many. That kind of unity is not weakness. It is the greatest strength that people can have, and in times of division, when lines are drawn and trust feels broken, we must remind ourselves of one simple truth. We are all in this together. We rise or fall together. We heal together or we stay wounded. We move forward together or not at all. So let us choose unity not just in speeches, but in actions, in our communities, our schools, our governments, and our hearts. Let us speak with kindness, vote with courage, and lead with vision. Let us look for the humanity in one another, because when we do, we become something greater than any one of us could be alone. We become one. Too often, Leadership is mistaken for status, control, or the ability to give orders. We imagine it in grand stages, powerful titles, or people standing at the front of the room, but true leadership doesn't begin with authority. It begins with responsibility. It's not measured by how many people listen to you, but by how many lives you lift up. Leadership, at its heart, is service, and the best leaders are those who never forget that. The most powerful leaders in history were not the loudest, the wealthiest, or the ones with the biggest armies. They were the ones who stood up for others, even when it cost them. They were the ones who made decisions not to protect their own comfort, but to secure justice and dignity for others. That is what leadership is about. Not self-promotion, but self-sacrifice. Not domination, but dedication. Service-based leadership doesn't seek to impress. It seeks to impact. It listens before it speaks. It builds trust before it demands loyalty. It doesn't look down from a high place. It steps into the crowd, rolls up its sleeves, and gets to work. That kind of leadership may not always make headlines, but it builds foundations that last. Being a leader in this way doesn't require a badge or a title. You can lead in your classroom, you can lead in your home, you can lead in your community. You lead when you help others rise, when you take responsibility, when you speak truth with compassion, when you show up and do what's right even when no one's watching. That's real leadership. Leadership rooted in service means putting people first, not just in words, but in decisions. It means asking not, what can I gain, but whom can I serve? It means facing hard truths and having hard conversations. It means protecting the vulnerable, challenging the corrupt, and guiding others toward a better, more just world even when it's inconvenient. Sometimes people believe leadership is about never showing weakness. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Real leaders are not perfect. They don't pretend to have all the answers. They admit when they are wrong. They learn, they grow, and that humility makes them stronger, not weaker. Because leadership is not about having all the solutions, it's about creating space where others can bring theirs. Think about the people who have made a difference in your life. Were they the richest, the most powerful, or were they the ones who made time for you, who encouraged you, who believed in you? Those are the leaders that stay with us not because they ruled over us, but because they stood beside us. Leadership is also about vision. A leader must be able to imagine something better and then do the hard work of bringing others along that path. That doesn't mean pretending things are perfect. It means acknowledging the challenges while refusing to accept that they are permanent. It means inspiring others not just with dreams, but with direction. And leadership is tested most when things are difficult, when resources are low, when tempers are high, when failure feels close. That's when the true leaders stand up not to demand loyalty, but to offer hope. Not to blame others, but to take accountability. Not to protect themselves, but to protect the people they serve. That is the kind of leadership the world needs now more than ever. We don't need louder leaders. We need wiser ones. We don't need those chasing applause. We need those creating change. And that change begins with empathy, with the simple act of seeing others not as tools or threats, but as people with value and voice. Young people especially need to understand this. You don't have to wait to lead. You don't need permission to care. If you see a problem, you can lead by helping solve it. If someone is hurting, you can lead by showing kindness. If your voice can speak truth, use it. If your hand can help, offer it. This is leadership real, everyday leadership, and it changes lives. And the most remarkable thing, when you lead by serving others, you find your own purpose more clearly. You gain not just respect, but respect that lasts. You don't just influence others, you inspire them. You plant seeds that grow far beyond your time and touch hearts you may never even meet. So let us redefine what leadership means. Let us teach the next generation that leadership is not a spotlight, it is a commitment. It's not about rising above others, it's about lifting others with you. It's not about ruling from the top, it's about standing firm at the foundation, holding everything steady when the winds blow. Because in the end, the leaders who are remembered are not those who took the most. They are the ones who gave the most, and their legacy lives on in every life they touched, every voice they lifted, and every path they cleared for those who came after. Change doesn't arrive overnight, it rarely comes quickly, and it never comes easily. It's not a lightning strike or a sudden shift in the wind. It's more like a river carving its way through stone, slow, steady, and relentless. It takes time, it takes pressure, it takes belief, and most importantly, it takes people who are willing to keep moving forward, step by step, even when it feels like nothing is moving at all. It's easy to get discouraged when progress doesn't match our expectations. We live in a world that moves fast. We expect results instantly. We want solutions today. But lasting change, real, meaningful, structural change takes effort that stretches across years, sometimes decades. It requires the work of not just one person, but many, not just one generation, but several, and that can feel frustrating. It can feel slow, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. All the great strides in history, whether in civil rights, science, education, or justice, began with people who were willing to keep pushing even when they saw little reward. People who marched even when their feet were tired. Who studied even when doors were closed to them. Who stood up when they were told to sit down. Who believed in something better even when the world around them didn't. Those people didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't give up when things didn't change overnight. They acted. They kept showing up. And because of them, we live in a world where more people have more rights, more opportunities, and more chances to succeed than ever before. That's the power of slow, determined change, but the work is far from over. And in many ways, we are still fighting the same battles for equality, for dignity, for truth, for opportunity. Sometimes it feels like we're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it feels like we're stuck. But if we look closer, we see the signs. We see more voices speaking up, more people learning, more leaders rising from unexpected places. Change is happening quietly, persistently, because people like you refuse to quit. There is power in staying the course, in not letting frustration silence your effort, in remembering that the seeds you plant today might not bloom until years from now, but they will bloom. Maybe not for you, but for someone who comes after. That's how change works. It's a relay race, not a sprint. We carry the baton forward and we pass it on, and we trust that someone else will continue the race because of the path we cleared. And here's the truth. The pace of change should never be used as an excuse to stop trying. Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's hopeless. Just because a system is broken doesn't mean it can't be repaired. Just because others say that's the way it's always been doesn't mean that's the way it must always be. Change demands patience, but it also demands urgency. It asks us to stay grounded in reality while never losing sight of what's possible. It requires us to challenge injustice, even when it's uncomfortable. It asks us to speak up, even when our voice shakes. It calls us to be honest about our flaws as individuals and as a society, and to do the work to improve. And you, every one of you, are part of that work. Whether you are young or old, rich or poor, whether your story has just begun or is already deep in its chapters, you have the power to make a difference with your vote, with your words, with your decisions, with the example you set every single day. Change does not wait for permission. It waits for action. It also waits for imagination. The kind of imagination that says, what if things could be different? What if we made schools more equitable? What if we took care of our planet? What if no one had to fear injustice because of who they are or where they come from? Every breakthrough begins with a what if, followed by a determined, consistent let's try. So don't let the slowness of change convince you that nothing matters. Don't let the weight of today's problems crush your hope for tomorrow, and never underestimate the ripple effect of your effort. A single act of courage, a single conversation, a single refusal to give up, these are how movements grow. These are how stories shift. These are how new futures are born. Keep working. Keep learning. Keep pushing, even when the change you want seems far away, because every great change that ever happened started with people who believed that something better was possible and never stopped working until it was. Change is slow, but it is always possible, especially when people like you decide to be part of it.